Elton John knew them before the world did. He laughed with them, cried with them, and in some heartbreaking moments, said goodbye too soon. From Freddie Mercury to John Lennon, here's the story of Elton's emotional journey with the legends we lost. You'll never see these icons the same way again. The night Freddie called Elton his sister. Elton John was at home when the call came. It wasn't unusual to hear from Freddie Mercury. They joked, gossiped, talked about music. But this call was different. Freddie sounded weak, his voice soft, almost whispering. "It's your sister," he said, using the nickname he gave Elton, Sharon. "It's Melina," Elton replied, calling Freddie by his own drag name. They both laughed, but the silence after was heavy. Freddie was dying. AIDS had already taken so much from him, his energy, his body, but not his humor. "I just want to hear your voice again," Freddie said. Elton's heart broke. He knew the end was near. But Freddie didn't want to talk about that. He wanted to talk about the past, about the silly costumes they wore at parties, about the songs they loved. They had been close for years. Both flamboyant, both proud, both hurt by the same cruel world that mocked them for being different. Elton once said Freddie was one of the bravest people he ever knew. "He never stopped being Freddie," he said. "Even when it hurt." After that call, Elton didn't hear from him again. When Freddie passed away in November 1991, Elton didn't speak to the press. He couldn't. He was too broken. At the funeral, he sat in silence, clutching a single rose. A few days later, he received a gift, a painting. It was something Freddie had arranged before his death. There was a note, "For Sharon. With all my love. Melina." Elton wept. But that wasn't the only time he'd lose someone close, or feel the pain of silence after laughter. The last time John Lennon knocked on his door. It was 1974 in New York when John Lennon and Elton John performed together at Madison Square Garden. It was wild. Fans screamed as the two legends sang, "Whatever Gets You Through the Night." Elton had told John the song would be a hit. John had laughed. "If it hits #1, I'll perform with you live." It did. But what Elton didn't know, that night would be Lennon's last live performance. Ever. John had stepped away from the spotlight after that, focusing on being a father. But he and Elton stayed in touch. Then came the call in December 1980. Not from John, from someone crying. "Elton, he's gone. John's been shot." Elton froze. It didn't feel real. Just days earlier, Lennon had sent him a Christmas card for his godson, Elton's son Zachary. Now he was gone. At the memorial, Elton couldn't sing. He just stood there, staring at the flowers. What hurt him most was what could have been. "We had plans," Elton later said. "We wanted to make music again. We never got to." He would often sit at his piano and play the songs they loved. Imagine, Lucy in the Sky, Empty Garden. That last one, a song Elton wrote for John, was the hardest. "I sing it, but it breaks me," he said. Because he should have been here. He had more to give. And then, like a cruel joke, the world started taking more. When George Michael cried in Elton's arms. George Michael was like a younger brother to Elton John. When they sang, "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," together, the world saw magic. But behind the spotlight, George was hurting. Fame had taken its toll. He struggled with identity, pressure, and deep personal loss. He confided in Elton more than anyone. "I'm scared," George once told him. "I don't know who I am when I'm not performing." They fought. Elton tried to help. He pushed George into rehab once, and George pushed back. "You don't understand," George said. But Elton did, maybe too well. Then came the Christmas of 2016. Elton got a call. "George is gone." He couldn't breathe. He remembered the last time they spoke. George had laughed, said he felt better. Elton believed him. "I thought we still had time," he said later. At the funeral, Elton wore sunglasses not for style, but to hide his tears. Later that year, he performed "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me" again. This time, the silence after the final note said everything. But George wasn't the only one Elton had tried to save. And not every goodbye came with warning. The phone call about Amy Winehouse. Elton first heard Amy Winehouse before most people did. Someone sent him a CD. "This girl's got soul," he said. When they finally met, Amy was shy. Not what he expected from a woman with a voice that could shake the sky. She called him Sir Elton with a cheeky grin. He called her Kid. They bonded over music, but also over pain. Amy was struggling. Everyone could see it. The press called her a mess. Elton saw something else, a scared, brilliant young woman who didn't know how to deal with fame. He tried to help. Called her. Wrote her. Invited her to his home in the south of France. "Come stay," he told her. "We'll write. We'll talk." Sometimes, she came. Sometimes, she disappeared. Elton remembered one day when she called him, crying. "I'm tired," she said. "Tired of being a joke." He begged her to get help again. She said she would. But she didn't. In July 2011, Elton was on tour when his phone rang. His assistant handed it to him with a strange look. "It's Amy," she said. Elton smiled. Finally, he thought. But it wasn't her. It was news. Amy Winehouse was dead. Alcohol poisoning. Just 27. Elton stared at the wall. "Not another one," he whispered. He lit a candle that night, alone in his hotel room. He didn't speak to the crowd the next day. He just played. Quiet, heavy notes on the piano. The kind that feel like goodbye. Whitney's whisper, and the pain Elton still carries. Elton didn't know Whitney Houston the way he knew Freddie or George. But he felt her. Her voice. Her pain. He once said, when Whitney sang, it was like hearing God. But he also saw the other side. The loneliness. The drugs. The public meltdowns. Elton had been there before. He knew what it was like to perform for millions and feel completely alone. They met at a charity event once. Whitney hugged him tightly. "I'm so glad you're still here," she whispered. That haunted him. When she died in 2012, just hours before the Grammy Awards, Elton sat in silence. He had lost another voice. Another friend. "I wish I had done more," he said later. "We all watched her fall. And we didn't catch her." He played a quiet tribute during his next show. A few soft chords. No words. Because what could he say? By now, Elton had lost so many. And each time, a piece of him went with them. But there was one more voice he missed more than most, someone who helped save his life when Elton couldn't save his own. The one person who saved Elton, and died without warning. Ryan White wasn't a musician. He was a teenager. A boy who became a symbol for AIDS awareness in the 1980s. But to Elton, he was something else, a light in the darkest time of his life. When Elton met Ryan, he was in a bad place. Addicted, lonely, lost in his own fame. But Ryan? He was full of life, even while dying. He smiled, cracked jokes, gave hugs to strangers. They became close. Ryan's family welcomed Elton like one of their own. And Ryan, knowing he didn't have long, still comforted Elton, the man who should have been comforting him. When Ryan died in 1990, Elton was devastated. But something changed. He checked into rehab. "Ryan saved me," Elton said. "His death gave me life." He said many goodbyes. But Ryan's goodbye gave him a second chance. And that's what keeps him going. Elton's final words on the ones he lost. Today, Elton John is older, sober, and reflective. He still cries when he sings Your Song. He still hears Freddie's laugh in his head. He still imagines what George or Amy would be writing today. He keeps their memories alive, not just in music, but in action. His AIDS Foundation. His tributes. His honesty. In interviews, people ask him, "Do you ever stop missing them?" He smiles, a little sad. "No. And I never will." Because in every note he plays, every lyric he sings, every young artist he helps, they're all still there. Freddie, John, George, Amy, Whitney, Ryan. Gone too soon. But never truly gone.